are no words, no phrase I could create. There is no melody that I could make. How do you sing about a love so deep without feeling like you missed something? I could try, but I could not explain. It's kind of love. It's reckless for us. It's kind of love. We'll never give up till the whole world knows how far he went to show. It's kind of love. It's kind of love. It's kind of love. It's kind of love. Tell me what kind of God would choose to save the bruised, the broken, the sinners, the runaways. How do you ever try to comprehend this love that knows no limit? I could try, but I could not explain. It's kind of love. It's reckless for us. It's kind of love. We'll never give up till the whole world knows how far he went to show. It's kind of love. It's kind of love. It's kind of love.
Today I'm going to do class 2 of 3 on nutrition. My name is Brittany. If you didn't get a chance to watch the first video, I suggest you go back and do that because a lot of what we talked about in that video will apply to the next 2. But just a little recap on the first video. We talked about carbs and we learned just how complex they are. So if you watched the first video, that will make sense to you. We talked about simple carbs, which would be like pop, sugar, chips, candy, processed foods, being the majority of those. Simple carbs, the pop chips, not structured, easy to digest because your body does not have to break anything down. Like it's just like if you drink soda, that's a sugary carb. It's gonna go in your body and just rush right through you. Your body doesn't have to do any work. So simple carbs are bad for you. Versus complex carbs, which are rices, grains, potatoes, made from whole grains, natural in source, not produced in a factory. They have complex structures, and your body has to work really hard to break them down, which is a good thing. Our bodies are designed to do that. So they are great for you. So simple carbs versus complex carbs. We talked a little bit about where you can access them. And the big point of carbs that we talked about was that carbs are your body's primary energy source. So today, and it's also one of the main 3 macronutrients. So the main 3 macronutrients for your body are carbs, protein, and fat. So today we're going to go through protein and fats and a little bit on water. Last week I drew a circle. I'm not going to now, but if there was like a big circle right here and you had carbs, protein, and fats. Last week I told you to think of carbs as energy instead. So today we're going to add energy, structure, and protection to that. And I think it's important to view carbs, protein, and fats as what they really are, which is energy, structure, and protection. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay. So starting off, we are going to go into protein. And like I said, it's over here, protein, on that circle of all the things we need. Protein is structural for our bodies. It's a very important macronutrient because every cell in our body needs protein. It helps repair cells and body tissues. I think a very common thing that people relate protein to is muscle, which yes, absolutely. But then like skin and hair, whenever somebody's like, hair isn't growing or nails aren't growing, they just like blame it on they're not getting enough protein. So, which is true, it is an essential part of that, but protein does so much more. When I had a leg surgery in September, I was supposed to not walk for like a really long time, and it was like a 12-month recovery. It's only been 4 months, and I was walking like 6 weeks after the surgery, and that's because I kept my protein levels really high during that. I had really high requirements for protein because I was healing. So protein does a lot for your body. We'd basically literally fall apart if we did not consume protein. So extremely important. It also aids in like blood clotting, immune system responses, hormones, and enzymes. A lot of things. You can't live without it. Something important about protein, again, is the leaner and the cleaner, the better. So I'm sure you know not all proteins are the same. Just like carbs, not all carbs are the same. Some are processed and like fake and sugary, and some are really dense and good for you and healthy and grows in the ground. Protein's the same way. So basically leaner in the protein realm just means that it has fewer naturally occurring fats. A good example would be venison. I eat a lot of venison. It has doesn't have a lot of natural fat part of it. So that is a lean meat. Another good one would be chicken breast. Not a lot of natural fat attached to that. Opposite of that would be bacon. So a lot of natural fat. And then clean, so that's lean. The clean part of lean and clean meats is free of hormones and additives. Kind of like I said last time, we could spend a whole class just talking about the way that like fake foods are processed and how bad they are. Same thing with this. Like we could go into meats and like how McDonald's burger is not even a real burger. So that would be a perfect example of an unclean meat. So full of hormones and additives and things that aren't even food. Okay, so a quick point on, this is kind of a cool point to bring up about people argue a lot about the Bible and how we're not supposed to eat meat. And again, this is just going to be my opinion on this part. Obviously, God created Adam and Eve, and like He put them in this garden. It had all these fruits and vegetables and amazing foods. And it didn't talk anything about like eating a chicken or a deer. And that was great for them. But then they sinned, and the whole world changed. So again, this is just like my view on it. And at that point, when that happened, they started sacrificing animals, and they were provided meat to eat. And so I believe that it's very difficult in a fallen world to only eat fruits and vegetables. And so I believe God provided the proteins through the meats that we have here for us. Not McDonald's meats, but like real meats. So, and further into that, the meat industry, just like marketing with carbs and all of that, the meat industry caters to the population that loves fatty food. So the majority of the population is like, I want that juicy, like super fatty, really greasy burger. Like that's just like our taste buds, because we've kind of made it that way. And so the meat industry caters to that. Like even though they know that's not the healthiest option, that's what they're used to producing because they want to sell the most meat. So it's hard to find lean meats and good meats, especially clean ones, free of additives and hormones. They do that by like overfeeding the animals. We're not going to get into this a ton, and adding like those growth hormones and steroids. Okay, so lean and clean meat's good. Watch out for the fatty ones because it's a marketing thing. And then we're going to talk about dairy proteins. So this is a fun fact. If you are lactose intolerant, you are actually correct. So a lot of people don't know that. They think that if they're lactose intolerant, they're the wrong one. But our bodies are actually like created that way, and then mutated, if you want to say, we have done. So, excuse me, I need to grab a Kleenex. Yeah. So in a sense, we've adapted to being able to consume dairy. So there is a lot of protein in dairy in certain aspects, but it's not like recommended as a protein source to consume. Dairy, why some people are intolerant of it the correct way is because it's an inflammatory food. So that basically is what that means, is that our immune system is like, this isn't good for my body. Like dairy is not good for my body. Milk isn't good for me. So then it wants to fight against that, your immune system. So that's why it's considered an inflammatory food. So it doesn't mean you can't ever consume it. Again, things in moderation. Like we're from Wisconsin, we're gonna eat cheese, and I'm gonna have a glass of milk with cookies on Christmas. So it's gonna happen, but maybe just not like everyday part of your nutrition. And two, the thing that people say, like you have to drink milk in order to get your calcium intake, that is false, because just like anything else with marketing, the dairy, industry basically figured out that, hey, if we tell people they're lacking in calcium, and guess what, there's calcium in milk, so if we tell them that they'll be, have more calcium in their system if they drink milk every day, they'll buy more of it, and they'll sell more of it. That's just the truth. So there is calcium in it, but your best source for calcium is gonna be leafy greens. So, and it'll completely cover your calcium needs. Like you do not have to drink milk to get that. Okay, so then that brings me back to like the animal proteins that we mentioned a little bit in the beginning. Again, lean and clean. So animal proteins are going to be like an excellent source. So we're not going to go into this a lot, but there's like complete proteins and incomplete proteins. And what I will say about that is animal proteins are complete, okay? So basically that means that they contain all the necessary amino acids that your body requires. So if I eat like 4 ounces of chicken breast, I'm not lacking in anything for my protein needs. Like I eat that, good to go. Versus some vegetables, and we'll get into that a little bit. Vegetables, I might eat some beans, and they're not a complete source of protein. So I ate it, but I did not get all those essential amino acids within that consumption. Excuse me. Okay, yeah, so it is possible to get complete protein from vegetables, but you'd probably have to like combine a couple. So again, we live in a fallen world where fruits and vegetables just does not cut it for protein. But there's an exception to that rule with plants, because there are a few that are complete, which is cool. So quinoa, which we mentioned in the carb section, that is a carb but also very high in protein, and it is a complete protein. So you eat it and you get all the essential amino acids. But it's not going to be equal to 4 ounces of chicken breast. Like you'd probably have to eat a lot of quinoa to equal the protein in chicken breast. So again, I'll say that we're combining certain types of incomplete proteins. A good example, I don't know a lot of these offhand, beans and rice. So if I eat beans and rice, I'm going to get all those amino acids, but not separately on their own, versus like a lean meat, I would definitely get that. So we're going to go through some protein examples. Pork, but not bacon, okay? And that goes into the lean and clean thing. Bacon, I still eat it every now and again, so it doesn't mean you can't ever have it. It just shouldn't be a part of like your daily nutrition plan. Pork chops, so that's a really good example. I just had pork chops last night. It's a lean meat. Beef, chicken, fish, turkey, beans, eggs, chickpeas, or otherwise known as like hummus, also high in good fats. Bison, seafood, salmon also has a lot of high fat in it, a very good source of fat. Salmon, baked beans, and venison. So that's not limited to, like, I'm sure I missed a lot of meat protein options in that, but those are some of the top ones that I would say we eat more commonly. A cool one for us is venison. Like, and I know a lot of people are like, yes, or completely no to that. But like Matt and I, my husband, we haven't bought hamburger in probably over 2 years, because we harvest our deer and we grind it up and make our own hamburger out of it. And so that's extremely beneficial. So $40 a year we spend on tags, and that's our meat for the year, our red meat. So really, really cool. And plus, I know the face behind it. All right. So now that you kind of know protein sources in meat and a little bit in vegetables. We're going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to mention reasons why you would require higher protein than some others. If you're an athlete, you're going to require more protein, just like a marathon runner is going to require more carbs than someone sedentary. It's the same with athletes versus someone sitting around. You're going to require more protein. If you're healing, kind of like I mentioned before with my surgery, I needed that high protein level. I mean, and that comes down to even if you just like get a minor cut and it's like taking a long time to heal, that could be a reflection of low protein in your diet. If you're pregnant, you require more protein. I do want to mention something, I didn't have this on here, but lunch meat. Lunch meat is a very, very processed meat, like extremely processed. It's very bad for you. So especially if you're pregnant, they don't even let pregnant people eat lunch meat, and so I think that speaks a lot for itself right there. Lunch meat is categorized as like a class 1 carcinogenic, so that's pretty, doesn't mean that all sliced meat is that way, but again, know where it came from, who processed it, how it was processed, that plays a huge role. Also, if you're dieting, that goes back to you need higher protein. We'll talk about that a little bit. If you're trying to lose weight, you require higher protein. So athletes, healing, if you're pregnant, and on a diet. Okay, so why that makes sense if you're on a diet is because protein consumption reduces your appetite, okay? This is because like calories from protein meat sources take longer for your body to break down, so it keeps you feeling fuller longer, it keeps your appetite lower. It's really good. It keeps you feeling fuller longer, so then you're not snacking as often. Okay. All right. I've heard before like that people are concerned if they have too much protein that it's going to affect their kidneys, and that's kind of a myth. If you are healthy and you have properly functioning kidneys, which most of us do, you could eat an insane amount of protein and it would never affect your kidneys negatively. Okay, so I know that gets cycled around quite often, but you do not have to be concerned about that. Another point I want to hit on is soy. Soy protein, it's derived from soybeans, and it's high in protein. It's found in a lot of foods such as edamame, tofu, soy flour, soy milk, and it can be found in some supplements. It's a good source of protein, but I know that there's been a lot of debate on that as like of it affecting men and testosterone. I knew that was going to happen. I think you know what I'm trying to say at this point, but their levels of testosterone. I can't say it. Oh my gosh. Okay, anyways, now that you guys all know, the opposite of estrogen. Okay, it does not affect those levels. Okay, so that's a myth as well. So you could eat a lot of soy protein, which is full of plant-based compounds, and you're going to be unaffected. So do not be concerned about that. But again, I suggest other protein sources. Oh, goodness. Okay. Another one. So we've covered kind of if it affects your kidneys. No. It doesn't affect men and their health. No. And also another thing that comes up is like protein shakes. I think a lot of people think if they're on a nutrition plan or trying to lose weight or trying to gain muscle that they need to drink protein shakes, and we're not going to go huge into supplements, but I do want to say that there's only pretty much one advantage to a protein shake, and again, that should still affect lean and clean sources, but even if you're going to have it, the only benefit is that it's convenient. So maybe every now and again, but again, it should still be a lean and clean protein, and you would have to do your research on that or ask me some options, but I don't recommend it. I will never recommend a supplement over the natural source of something. So don't think you have to go out and spend all that money on protein. That's the same with any supplement if you're going to spend money on it, but you're not willing to spend money on fruits, vegetables, and the actual sources of protein, don't even bother. Okay, so that was a little bit about protein. I hope it wasn't too much. Obviously, I have meat sources and vegetable sources. Busted a few myths in there. Had a couple laughs. I can't pronounce the word. Okay, so now we're going to put protein on hold for a while, which is structure. Okay, so carbs, energy, protein, structure. Now we're going to move to fat. Okay, and fat we're going to look at as protection for your body. One of the biggest things that fat does, that offers, is vitamin absorption. And that means like natural, not supplements. Like fat allows your body, I think it's A, E, K, and D are the vitamins that if you don't have like a fat source in your body, you are not able to absorb those vitamins. So it's really important for that. Again, it's part of all cells, just like protein, important for recovery and overall health. It aids in inflammation of the cardiovascular system. It provides insulation, so people that have low body fat percentage are typically cold a lot. If you're freezing right now, don't necessarily think that that's why, but some people, like when I get ready for a competition, my body fat percent was really low and I was so cold all the time. So it's really important. Also, fat is an energy storehouse. Okay, so it protects you. All of that could be summed up into like protecting your body, okay? And the reason why I wanted to look at them as energy, structure, and protection is because if you sometimes think of them as carbs, protein, and fat, you might think you could live without one of those, okay? Like if I'm like, here, you need carbs, fat, and protein, you might be like, well, I'm gonna lower my carbs way down here. But when you look at it as fat, energy, and structure, sorry, I'm thinking about that word again, but if you look at it as protection, energy, and structure, you wouldn't necessarily say, wow, I'm just going to get rid of my energy, would you? No, you're like, I need a sufficient amount of energy so that I can thrive, that I can live well, so I can compete in my sports, so that I can stay up and work on this, I can get up in the morning and be with my kids or walk my dogs. You wouldn't like adjust, you wouldn't get rid of energy. And you definitely wouldn't get rid of protection in your life. Like protection is very important. So if you look at it as protection and instead of fat, you really value it. Like you're not gonna live without protection, and you're also not gonna live without structure. That one's huge as well. They're all very important. So I like to look at it that way. Protection, energy, structure. You need all three to live well, to thrive, to be healthy. So that's why I skewed the words on that. It's extremely important. Okay, so again, fat is also an excellent source of energy, and just real quick on the calories, it's kind of neat. Protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram, and fat has 9 calories per gram. So that's sometimes why we might gain weight on eating like a high-fat diet. That's just one example of many that we could go into, but because it adds up really, really quickly. Like 1 tablespoon peanut butter is going to be, let's just say 9 calories of fat, say that's what it's equal to, and carbs is only going to be 4, okay? So that's the difference there. That's why, like, you eat hummus, which is a really good fat, but man, I can sit down and eat like a whole bag of chips and a whole dish of hummus, and that's a lot of fat. So fats are extremely good for you, healthy ones, but that's why they add up so quickly in things, because there's just over double the calories per gram. Okay, we're going to talk about types of fats really quick and what to kind of look for on labels. The healthiest options are going to be unsaturated fats, okay? So just keep that word unsaturated fat. And those sources are going to be fish, nuts, and seeds, okay, oils. We'll talk about those a little bit more. So unsaturated fats, healthiest. Then you're going to have saturated fats, which come from like your meats that we were talking about, but this is also dairy and coconut oil. And then the third one that you should just stay away from altogether is trans fat, okay? That's going to be your processed foods, hydrogenated oils, vegetable oils, deep fried foods, margarine, packaged baked goods, and we'll go into that a little bit more. So just to recap that, because it's really important. Unsaturated is like your number one. Eat those, okay? Absolutely. In moderation, those healthy fats are great. Fish, nuts, seeds, healthy oils. Saturated, it's from your meats, that's okay. Have a little bit. Butters, cheeses, have it every now and again. Coconut oil. Trans fats, stay away from, okay? That's like cheat days. Don't want to think about your donut, how much fat is in it. That's going to be your trans fats. Okay, so the one I mentioned in trans fats is hydrogenated oil. This is a really sneaky fat. So I think we always think of it as like butter and fat with meat, like that's an obvious, like this is fat. But we never think to look on the back of our cookie boxes and cracker boxes. But that is like where the hydrogenated oils hide. And it's a processed fat, so it's not good at all. It's a manufactured version. Basically, companies put it into foods to highlight like flavor. So make the texture more satisfying, improve the shelf life. So that's going to be hydrogenated oils. And it's funny because, again, if you're vegetarian, that's awesome, but I hope, just doing it the right way. But a lot of times vegetarians use the argument that there's like bad fats in the meat that we're eating, but, and other people too, but they're still like, you look in their cupboard and like all the carbs that they believe in eating versus meat are full and packed of that hydrogenated oil, which is just a sneaky word for saying trans fat, which is actually the real culprit behind a lot of the bad fats we eat, not from meats. So be aware of hydrogenated oil. That's like a big one. Trans fats and hydrogenated oil. Check like, what you're eating. So like, again, in the meats, the naturally trans fats, they won't cause a lot of ruckus. It's like those processed ones that are made in a factory, like in cookies and crackers and stuff. Okay, so trans fats, they increase bad cholesterol, decrease good cholesterol, just all kinds of really bad issues. One note that is fun about fats, egg yolks. You hear them get a bad rap sometimes too. Like, oh, I went to my doctor and he said that I should cut out, my cholesterol is high, so I should cut out eggs. Well, actually, cholesterol, egg yolks are a good cholesterol. It's the good kind that you want. So if the doctor tells you not to eat those, just like respectfully acknowledge what he said. But then as you leave, remember that a doctor is not a nutritionist. And so he means well, probably, or she. But egg yolks are not the culprit. Again, look into like the poor foods that you're eating. Eggs are a wonderful source of protein and healthy fat. Actually, 2 egg yolks are exactly the amount of cholesterol that your body requires in a day. So if you're eating 2 eggs in the morning, and then you have healthy lean meats and vegetables and healthy carbs throughout the rest of the day, you don't have to worry about your cholesterol levels at all. So not even in the least bit. It comes down to our total nutrition that causes bad cholesterol, not egg yolks. And plus, dogs like them. I think I give each one of my dogs an egg yolk every day. Helps with their coats. So, okay. So you guys know a little bit about good fats and bad fats. Trans fats, the bad one. Now let's talk about healthy fats, okay? Because that's what I want you to focus on the most, is what to eat, not what you shouldn't eat. Okay, so healthiest fats are going to be found in salmon, tuna, sardines, a lot of other fishes, but the big ones that we would probably eat a lot would be like the nuts and seeds and oils from those. So like I eat a lot of avocado oil, olive oil, gosh, there's a lot, but so fish, nuts, and oils, okay? And they even make like avocado mayo now, so instead of just being the trans fats in there and manufactured fats and mayo, now you can get it like in a healthier source, so that's pretty cool, out of the vegetables. Peanut butter. Oh, that's a huge one. Peanut butter. I can't believe I didn't think of that. Everybody loves peanut butter. Like, again, those fats can add up really fast, so I don't suggest like sitting down and eating the jar of peanut butter with a spoon, but that is a healthy fat because the nuts, okay? So peanut butter, yeah. So best fat sources, avocados, salmon, tuna, seeds, nuts, big deal. Okay. So, oh, and what I think is cool, or ironic, I should say, is the same foods that contain the really bad carbs are the same foods that have the bad fats. So that makes it pretty easy for us to not choose those. The chips, the cookies, the donuts, the crackers. Yep, they have the bad carbs and they have the bad fats. So all around, not very good for you. Okay. Fats can be a little confusing, so I hope you guys took the main points of what bad fats are and good fats are. Look for trans, look for good, okay? Okay, now we're on to water. We're gonna go into water. Water and its function in the body. All right. Water, a few points here. Water dissolves and transports minerals, vitamins, proteins, and other important substances throughout the body. A big one is water helps digest your food. So if you're like feeling blocked up or cramped up or just bloated all the time, like you feel like your digestive system isn't moving well, that could be one of the big reasons that you're not consuming enough water. It's very important to keep things moving. Water regulates body temperature. It keeps like your nose and eyes and mouth properly like lubricated. So I would say that the average person should consume about half a gallon of water a day, so that's 64 ounces. But just like the protein and carb needs, water's the same way. If your activity levels go up, your needs go up for it, okay? So half a gallon is like the bottom line. You can get water from a lot of sources other than just like drinking bottles of water or tap water. Like a lot of the foods that you eat. So if you're eating a lot of vegetables, which I hope you are after all of this, or were already, like vegetables contain a lot of water in them. So that's like, an easy way to help stay hydrated too. And this one is gonna bust a lot of your bubbles. Caffeine does not dehydrate you. So that one, normally I can explain where the myth came from, like the dairy with calcium in milk, like I understand what they're doing there. They're trying to sell more milk. But caffeine, I don't know where that one came from. But it does not dehydrate you. So caffeine actually has like a natural diuretic in it. So you drink it, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. You drink it and it'll flush things through your system. So yes, you're probably gonna be going to the bathroom frequently. But just because you're going to the bathroom frequently doesn't mean you're dehydrated, okay? If you're going to the bathroom frequently, just hopefully you are continuing to drink water and stay hydrated. But the caffeine itself is not the culprit at all. Just some fun facts. A gallon of water weighs about 8 pounds, which is pretty wild. And I want to hit on that because I have a lot of clients or just random people at times that are checking in to give me progress on their nutrition and their training plans, and they'll weigh themselves in the morning, and this is just random numbers, maybe they're like 130, and then that night they text me and they're like, oh no, I don't know what happened, I don't know what to do. Or the next day they weigh themselves in the evening and they're like, I don't know what to do, I'm like 137, I gained like 7 pounds. And I'm like, did you eat all day? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, did you, and I know the answer, but I'm like, have you been drinking water all day? And they're like, yeah, like almost a gallon. Obviously they're going to the bathroom too, but just like your body fluctuates like 5 to 7 pounds a day, like naturally. So if you weigh yourself right away in the morning and then the next day in the evening, like you're gonna have a big difference, okay? So if you're ever trying to track your weight for any reason, like take that into account, that weighing yourself in the morning, the same time every time you weigh yourself, to kind of get a more accurate number. Don't freak out when you weigh yourself in the evening and you're like, what happened? So it's very natural. This one's fun too. A quarter of the bottled water in the world is bottled out of a tap. So the same tap water you drink, that's how your water gets bottled. So sometimes when you think that you need bottled water, you could buy a bottle and fill it up a lot of times and get the same. Drinking a sufficient amount of water helps your skin from looking dull. So like a lot of times, like people spend all this money on makeup products or skincare products or all these things because they feel like their skin is like really lacking. Well, one, that comes down to the nutrients from the food, huge. But then, yes, secondly is the water, absolutely. Like if I want my skin to look healthier, I'm like, wow, check my water intake, because that is a huge, huge factor. I'd rather, again, invest my time in this. You don't have to spend money, but invest my time into like making sure that I'm drinking enough water versus like, oh, I need to go buy this new skincare product. It's going to help, you know. Watch your nutrition, watch your water intake. And I'm speaking from experience, so like not calling anybody out. Like I had to learn that in the last few years, so just know that. Also, it prevents skin sagging. So, as I'm licking my chapped lips. Okay, another thing with water too is like people, I've had this a lot, they'll complain about like water retention within your body. So like you might see that like swelling up in your like below the knee, you might feel it all over, but water retention is like a huge complaint with a lot of people. And I swear I could tell people this and they like just do not believe it because it just seems so opposite. But the only way to rid of water retention within your body is to drink more water. So they used to always like joke like, drink it like it's your job. So yeah, if you're having water retention issues, you need to drink more water to continue to flush the things out of your body that are causing that water retention. Okay, so we've covered a lot, you guys. Protein, fats, and water. And now we're gonna go into real quick just some points on empty calories, what God has to say about it a little bit. Okay, so what did Abby? Abby said something in her message last Saturday. I really like it, and it was like, God doesn't focus on what we don't have, he focuses on what we do have, and he uses that. And that is extremely powerful. And it was cool because I was like, that applies to my nutrition, because I have one more class after this that will cover a little bit on fad diets and things like that. But mainly, you guys, I want to teach you what matters. Like, I want you to focus on what matters and what counts and not on the things that don't matter. So like, it's important to be aware of them. But if you fact check all those fads and advice and all those things out there with like the points I'm teaching you, like that's what will count, okay? So I'm trying to teach focused on what matters and not on what doesn't matter, if that makes sense. I could spend 30 hours teaching about all the things not to do, or 3 hours teaching you on the things to do, okay? And in a very saturated world with opinions and advice, you already have enough of that going on anyways. Okay, so some of this will be going over the same stuff, but empty calories, no calories, they lead to disease and poor health, okay? So empty calories are those bad carbs, the trans fats, the fatty meats, fake meats, okay? Real food is designed to fuel us to love, preach, and reach. And I think that's extremely important to know, like kind of how I talked in the first lesson about how those foods, like they cause us to thrive. Like they cause us to be able to participate in the events that we want to love on the people we need to, like to not be drugged down. It's more than just, oh, I'm eating, you know, it's more than just calories. The world focuses on quantity, selling things, marketing things, more of things, and not quality. Like, I feel like the world has really lost that view on things, and it's the opposite of what God does. You know, God focuses on quality, and that's big. So another way that I look at nutrition that has completely changed my life is it's a blessing. Nutrition is a blessing. It's a blessing that I can honor God with what I eat, you know, that I can honor God physically with what I consume and how I treat my body. Like that's a big deal. 1 Corinthians 6:12, I love this verse. It kind of relates to what I just said. It says, it's true that our freedom allows us to do anything, but that doesn't mean that everything we do is good for us. I am free to do as I choose, but I choose to never be enslaved to anything. So I don't know about for you guys, but for me, again, that was like a huge turning point in my life with nutrition, of making it a lifestyle and not just something I was striving for, but I want to honor God with my entire being. So that doesn't include exclude my food consumption. Okay, so let's be real. These are just some points I made about that. What, when, where, why, and how, like our food takes up the vast majority of our everyday life. So what, when, where, why, and how of food takes up that majority. Our thoughts, our planning, events, gatherings, fuel, and energy is based around food. So like everything we do, like every event we plan, every gathering we come together, and that's not bad. Like, it's not bad that we have food there, but I'm just saying like everything, so much is based around food. Every special occasion, sport, health issue is related to food. It's structured around it. It's structured around proper nutrition. 80% of emotional turmoil in the populace directly affects our food consumption and health, and vice versa. So, I mean, 80% of turmoil in our minds, like our emotional turmoil, is affected and affects our nutrition. Food is like one of the top insecurities for most cultures, whether it's not enough, too much, obsessing over it. So my point of saying all that is, if it's something that is that prevalent in our day-to-day life, like if food is that part of everything, which it completely is, which is okay in a healthy way, but then you better bet that like I am going to submit that to God, you know, like it's that prevalent in my life, like it needs to be submitted just like anything else, like it needs to honor God just like anything else. And I only say that because I've learned from that, and I've learned the things that drive why I want to eat healthy carbs, why I want to eat healthy protein, and why I want to eat healthy fats. And then my thankfulness with God for that, like, stems a little bit from Psalms 139:14, and it says, "I thank you, God, for making me so mysteriously complex. Everything you do is marvelously breathtaking. It simply amazes me to think about it. How thoroughly you know me, Lord." And that just like speaks to me so highly. I hope it does to you as well. But just to like, God made us, like, he knew what he was doing, you know? He really knew, like when he all the plants on the earth and like provided the animals that we could eat, however you want to look at that. But he provided for us, like he knew what he was doing. And like he made us really complex, but he gave us the tools for that, you know, within our nutrition. And that's really amazing. Okay, so guys, carbs, fat, protein, water intake, a little bit of like why it should, hopefully it inspires you why to eat that way, of how it honors God. But now, lastly, we're gonna go into what a day of eating looks like, okay? Because you're like, okay, I understand those foods are all good for me, but what do I do with it? Okay, if I were to teach you guys like all of the factors that go into calculating how much a person should eat in a day, you'd be completely overwhelmed. And there's a reason, like people like me and other nutritionists and sometimes doctors, there's a reason why they get paid to like do specific nutrition plans for people. But it's like, you guys don't want that, like, and you don't need that. Like I can tell you tips today that will, like, you can be completely successful with, okay? So don't feel like you have to like get into the nitty-gritty of it. There is needs and reasons for that at some points, but I will say the things that go into it, which are activity levels. We've talked a lot about that, which include like your hobbies, work, exercise, and goals. Body composition, so your body fat percent, height, weight, and body type of all things. Dietary needs and restrictions. So a lot of people have certain lactose intolerant, you know. But you guys still, like I said, can 100% succeed in just knowing like the following structure, okay? So my quick advice to you on how to apply all that you've learned about fats, carbs, and proteins is this, a big thing. 3 meals a day plus 1 or 2 snacks, okay? Again, if you came to me and were like, I want to run a marathon, and also I want to power lift next month, like I have all these goals, and I'm working this job, like how do I get there? I'd be like, okay, we need to eat this, okay? But for like the average person just trying to like be healthy, this works, okay? This is like, not just works, it's like going to keep you healthy, okay? So 3 meals a day plus 1 or 2 snacks. And how I would structure those 3 meals is exactly this. 1 cup of lean protein, and then we talked about those sources, 1 cup of complex carbs, okay, and 1 cup of green vegetables. So a perfect example would be my lunch today. I had 1 cup of lean ground turkey mixed with 1 cup of jasmine rice, and I had 1 cup of green beans, okay? So that was a great balanced lunch with a complex carb, a lean protein, and vegetables. And just because they're lean and clean, all of those foods, doesn't mean you can't like season them and add like additives. Like the rice I cooked with diced up peppers and garlic, and put some like paprika seasoning in there. The turkey, I have mushrooms chopped up in it and onions for flavor. And what else do I have? Oh, the vegetables. Even the vegetables seasoned like crazy. So like seasonings are not bad. And sometimes people say, well, what about the sodium and the salts? And it's like, if you're not eating processed foods, like frozen chicken breast from a store, no. Like the ones in the package, don't recommend those high in sodium. That's just one example of many, of course. Try to get fresh chicken breast, but that is packed with sodium. So if you're eating that often, your sodium levels are probably gonna be high. And then say you're eating chips every day too, so you have high sodium chicken breast, chips, high sodium, and then you're putting salt on everything, yes, you might have high sodium levels, but salt is not the culprit, okay? It's the processed foods. So if you're not eating processed foods, you're eating whole foods like this, seasoned away, you're never gonna run into high sodium, okay? It's kind of like when people want to cut carbs, and so they cut out rice and oatmeal, but they still eat donuts. It's like, cut the donut, not the carbs. Okay, so 3 meals a day. In those meals, 1 cup of lean protein, 1 cup of complex carb, 1 cup of green vegetable. And then snacks, this is what I would recommend for your snacks once or twice a day. One fruit serving, veggie serving, could be any vegetable. Green is the most nutrient dense, and we'll talk about that in the next class. Healthy fats, so like almonds, like a 1/4 cup of almonds would be a good healthy snack. So maybe I'd have an apple and a 1/4 cup almonds, and some additional carbs, because fruit and vegetable are carbs as well. So like I like rice cakes. They're like 8 grams of carbs per cake, and I'll put like a tablespoon of almond butter on there. That's like a personal favorite, and that's a really quick but nutrient dense snack. So those 3 meals a day plus 2 healthy snacks. And it's not limited to, that's just like basics. Like if you ate like that, you're doing awesome. Okay, yeah, so remember that the quality of the food is more important than the quantity, okay? Know the faces behind what you eat. Just want to touch on this. We said it before, but like if you know a local butcher, there's like the meat shop in Rice Lake. I think that's what's called. Maybe it's the butcher shop. I would have to confirm that. But like, you know, take the time. Like take the time to invest into that. Like think about like, where does my food come from? You know, it's not like you have to spend like days figuring it out, but just like think about it a little bit. Local farmers, farmers markets, like, so that's just an easy way to sum it up. Like know the face behind what you eat. That helps to get the leaner, cleaner, less processed foods in a world where it's very difficult to do that. Okay, we have 2 more things. I just want to say food prepping tips, a few of those, and then some of my favorite snacks and easy go-tos. So food prep tips. Prep your food, and prep your food. If you do not prep your food, you're going to be like victim to the convenience lifestyle. Like it's impossible. You're hungry, you're going to eat, and you need to eat. So if you don't have something already prepared, and preparing doesn't have to mean physically always, it can be mentally, like knowing what you're going to go to when you're hungry, knowing that you're going to stop at your house before you go to church, knowing, you know, it doesn't have to always be like the physical preparation of food, which I recommend too, but sometimes it's just like prepping your day, like, well, I'm going to be gone for 12 hours. So I'm going to get hungry in there, so I'm going to eat a good, nutritious breakfast before I leave the house, and then I'm going to bring tuna packets and some rice cakes for lunch. Like, it's just like prepping your mind, you know, prepping your day so that when that hunger hits, because it's going to, naturally, that's good, you know, you need to eat. When that hits, you're not running to McDonald's or quick trip sandwiches or anything like that. So prep your food. I can talk a little bit more about that next time too on how I do that and some more tips. But a big one is like portion size. So if I cook like a big pot of rice, and I want it to last for 4 days. So I cook enough for 4 days, I should say. I have these little, like, Matt's grandma had all those, like, I can't believe it's not butter containers. Like, it's crazy. We have like 50 of them, but they're the perfect size for like 1 cup of rice, 1 cup of meat. And so I'll have like in my fridge, like a roll of rice containers, a roll of vegetable containers, a roll of meat containers. And then when I'm leaving for the day, I'm like 1 rice, 1 vegetable, 1 meat out the door. So I'll do that like once a week, kind of prep that, or twice a week. And that's really helpful. Sometimes having it in portion size ready to go is like the best option versus like a bulk. But either way, just prep, whether it's mentally or physically prepping your food. And then lastly, guys, I'm going to just tell you some of my favorite food snacks, because that's one thing I always hear, like, I didn't prep and now what? Now I'm like on the go and I need something. Cocoa almonds. I love cocoa almonds. I love all almonds, but cocoa ones are a huge one because I have a sweet tooth, and cocoa is not bad for you. So again, everything in moderation, but cocoa almonds, huge go-to one for me. Also berries, and you can combine those, that's even better. Berries are low in sugar and they help curb your sweet tooth. So, and absolutely packed with antioxidants and nutrients and vitamins. So berries are really, really good for you. This one's huge for me, being in the military, traveling a lot, not having coolers or fridges. Maybe we're in a field for a week, and I'm like, man, I need something healthy while I'm out there. So tuna and chicken packets. Of course, you're going to have like sodium levels, but again, if the rest of my nutrition is on point, that's not going to affect it. So huge, highly recommend those for when you're on the go and you stop somewhere and you're like, I just need food. Tuna and chicken packets, lifesavers. High protein, good fats. Beef jerky. So that's a slippery slope because a lot of beef jerky is extremely processed, high in sodium and high in sugars. So again, know the face behind it or be conscious of the labels. And see, the reason why I list that is because we get venison and we make our own. So I have that really cool benefit. So I know exactly the face behind it, and I know exactly how it was processed and what was added to it. So beef jerky and rice cakes, already mentioned that one. They have whole grain options with those as well. Almond butter, kind of told you that. If you haven't ever had almond butter, it's extremely smooth. It reminds me of chocolate. So, or Nutella, somebody has said before, has less sugar and it is a healthy fat. So almond butter is another favorite of mine. For salty, I have like 2 on there that I love. Edamame. At night, I'll buy like the little like personal steam fresh bags or whatever. Throw that in, and then I just salt it, and it is so good. I'll just sit down, like watch a movie, and eat like a whole bowl of edamame, and it is really high in protein. So that is wonderful as well. Protein, carbs, wonderful evening snack, as well as popcorn. Obviously, popcorn has some things that are amazing. Like, don't go like binge on movie theater popcorn. No. And not the extra butter stuff. Like, don't get like the bag stuff. You know, get like popcorn that you can pop on your own and add your own salts and things like that. And it's a wonderful source of fiber. Again, if you start eating like basic popcorn, at first you might be like, ugh, this is really dull, but we're like oversaturated with fake foods and things like designed to get us addicted and just fall in love with. So remember, as you start to eat cleaner and leaner, a lot of those foods that at first aren't going to taste amazing will. So, okay, again, a lot of information for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this class. Proteins, fats, healthy carbs, what that looks like. The next class, we're going to go into like a little bit on vitamins and minerals, supplements, what God has to say about some of that stuff, and a little on the fad diets. So stay tuned. Thanks.